El Salvador, taking a look at some of our arrivals here on the cobblestone point. Liam O'Brien, he's had a warm-up. Rio Waida warming up. Gabby, Snake, and Ethan Ewing working on a strategy. There's the defending champ, Caroline Marks. A couple of South Africans enjoying some banter at the start of the day. Checking out some footage from the warm-up sesh. Sakura making her way to the athletes area, and
after a huge finish in Tahiti, the World Surf League Championship Tour moves to Central America.
Right now, it's all about getting into that final five.
The world title is the goal.
I just want this to be over. Like, I just want it to make it.
I start envisioning it and I start crying because I see it so clearly.
South swells at Punta Roca provide the perfect canvas for the world's best to keep their dream alive.
Oh my, that was crazy. What more do you want, people?
The Surf City El Salvador Pro, presented by Corona, starts now.
welcome to Dawn Patrol for the Surf City El Salvador Pro, presented by Corona. And we got a great show for you. We're going to take a look at the fight for the final five, look back at some of our event champs in the draw, and Brisa Hennessy, she's back in yellow, as well as this guy, John Florence, coming in number one in the rankings for the men as we descend upon the beautiful cobblestone point of Punta Roca in El Salvador. They call this Surf City for all the right reasons. It's a beautiful right-hander, and we welcome you. Buenos dias, I'm Kaipo Girl, along with Felicity Flick Palmentier and mi sobrino, Mitchell Salazar, as well. Flick, we've been here for a couple days. I mean, this place is just a dream.
Oh, it completely is. It's just so consistent. And every time I come back here, I'm reminded there's just waves everywhere. Had a couple of surfs under the belt, and I'm still trying to process everything from Tahiti. Rocked up this morning, and it's absolutely firing out there. So we've got a lot to digest and a lot to unpack this morning.
Yeah, the Chilama River, Mitchell, unloads here, creates this cobblestone point known as Punta Roca. This is the playing field. It's incredible.
It definitely is, and it's one of the world-class waves we have in the Central American region, too. We had a big rain last night, which really helped out with bringing all that sand out of the river mouth and maybe even, seeing a little bit of sandbar down the point break right here, Kaipo. I'm really excited to see if we're going or not today.
I'm excited as well. But we're going to find out right now as we go down to the cobblestones with AJ McCord and Renato Hickel.
Yeah, Kaipo down here with Renato and the surfers coming up from their free surfs with massive smiles on their face. This guy has one too. Renato, walk us through the call for today.
It's so excited. We basically gonna ride the same swell we rode in Tahiti, in the last event, which was an epic event, and everybody's beaming. All the surfers in hype, and we have right now 4 to 6 foot surf. With a low tide around 8 o'clock, so on a turning of the tide, the swell is supposed to push even further. Maybe we're going to have some 8-foot sets today, and we have a massive schedule ahead of us, starting with women opening round, followed by men opening round, and women elimination round. If the winds behave, we'll do the 16 hits today. At 35 minutes, lots of action.
So with a big day today here on day one of the event window, how does that set us up looking forward for the rest of the event?
There is no shortage of swell in this window, which is another exciting thing. Like, we have 3 back-to-back swells, And like I said before, we're going to play with the winds. Winds behaving, we can pull these massive scheduled days. But if not, we're obviously going to stop and wait or cancel for the day and address the next day. We have what they call this intertropical zone outside the coast of El Salvador, converging these winds. So they play a little bit in this tropical region. So like I said, we're going to manage these winds if they behave. We're in a good shape to have an incredible event.
Looking forward to it. So a big day ahead of us here on day one. Kaipo, I'll send it back to you to get us started.
Thank you, AJ. Thank you, Renato. Yeah, we talked about the swell that hit here. Started off in Antarctica, actually, Mitchell, and then goes past New Zealand. We saw that swell in Tahiti. It traverses across the entire Pacific, and now we're seeing that same swell here at Punta Roca. Let's get some details on that as we dive into the Surfline forecast. And like Renato said, no shortage of action in the Pacific. Take a look, Mitch.
Third time's a charm, Kaipo. Third event we've had here at Punta Roca, and you can see Friday going to be very strong onshore winds. Today, though, really only in the afternoon, so we do have 16 heat plans. That's always subject to change. But as you can see, Friday going to be very windy. It's really the worst direction, too. Today's going to be great, though. 6 to 8 feet on the faces, slight onshore in the morning, and just a little bit stronger onshore in the afternoon, Kikes.
Yeah, Flick. And then we take a look at the long-term forecast, and the long-term forecast looks great as well because we got a lot of swell. We got a reinforcing swell for the weekend.
Yeah, I think you look at the first thing that comes to mind, I look at this long-term forecast, is that there is no shortage of swell. I mean, Renato already said it. It's basically, we're just going to have to see if these winds behave. We're just going to have to pick the eyes out of it. You know, there's definitely lots of opportunity. I mean, Saturday and Sunday both look great as well. And yet today, major day of competition, and it's absolutely pumping out there.
Yeah, just absolutely beautiful. Thank you to Surfline for all the intel. We couldn't do without you, preparing us for what we have on. And Surfline also, you know, giving us a lot of good news lately in the last 3 weeks with the active Pacific. Well, at this event, let's take a look at some of the wild cards that we have entering into this event. Lakey Peterson, she is no stranger, Flick, to right-hand point breaks. Born and raised there in Rincon. Lakey's going to be one to watch out for.
Yeah, Lakey is definitely going to be one to watch out for. We saw her get a wildcard berth into the Challenger Series at Snapper at the beginning of the year too, which was cool to see. Obviously a point break as well. Leilani McGonigal too, this is her second start up here on the backhand too, which is a point of difference. So yeah, on the women's side, I'm looking forward to watching both of these wildcards.
Yep, Leilani McGonigal also in the mix from Costa Rica. Brian Perez for the third time, the local boy, has a wild card, and we are celebrating the return of Joao Chianca 2023. He was number 4 in the world. He got a warm-up here, Mitchell, at Snapper Rocks at the Challenger Series there. Joao looking on point.
Yeah, and he made the quarterfinals, too, which is a big result given the incredible field that we saw at the Challenger Series event, too. But as you said, prepping for a right-hand point break over there at Snapper Rocks on the Gold Coast. Not only did he surf well, I thought he competed even better, Kaipo. So expect big things here from the younger of the Chianca brothers.
Yeah. Welcome back, Chumbinho. And there he is, Joao Chianca, getting ready for a day of competition. Smiles on his face. Well, we talked about this. This is the race. Maita Iroa, muy bien. How good was Tahiti? Stop number 6 was incredible. We're here at stop number 7 at this beautiful cobblestone point, Punta Roca. Kaipo Guerra, along with Felicity Palmentier and Mitchell Salazar. And a reminder for all you fantasy players, we're going to get going today. We already got the call. So make sure you get your teams all set, because once the horn blows, your team is locked. And we're excited about that stuff. We're talking about the Final 5 and how this is a pivotal event to that race for the Final 5, Flick.
Yeah, this is super pivotal. Obviously, we're getting further and further, into the year. And, I mean, just watching the performances at Tahiti, obviously this is a completely different break, but I mean, you just can't go, I can't go past John. He's obviously wearing that yellow jersey, and first time in a while, long time between drinks, but yeah, that final five is really starting to shape up.
Yeah, let's look at our current final five coming into this stop number 7. Like you said, Flick, John Florence, he's in that number 1 spot, but this particular venue has not been a standout venue for John Florence in competition.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, you look at the results right there. Injured in 2022 and then last year is 17th, so it hasn't fared well for him. But, I mean, it's a different John this year, and it's night and day, you know. He's just looking so good. He's in good nick. He's, you know, got maybe some extra dad strength that we can talk about as well. But, yeah, mindset is different, and he'll be looking for a big result.
Yeah, and it's pretty undeniable that Griffin Colapinto has been the most consistent surfer here outside of Felipe. 2 finals, and Kaipo in 2022, when he did take out Felipe in that final, he had to come back in a big way, had a 9 and an 8 in that heat total, but once again, looking very good to qualify for lowers, and I feel like could easily win his first championship this year.
Yeah, I mean, can Griffin hopscotch over John Florence for the top of the rankings? We're going to find out at the end of this event, but we know coming in, he's a top performer. Let's take a look back at 2022 and 2023. Griffin Colapinto, he made the finals both years. 2022 right here, this is where he took the
thing out the most in the last few years. If you look at his success, he's always been in the top 5 race because of the way he not only carries himself inside of the water, but outside of it too, Kaipo. And it's very noticeable this year, even with the Avatar kind of haircut that he's been having the last few events. He looks great, and once again, a pivotal event for him here if he wants to qualify to be one of the top seeds.
Yeah, well, the top seed, speaking of top seed, John Florence last year had a disappointing result, an elimination round loss to Rio Waida. We're taking a look at that heat right here, Flick.
Yeah, I think, you know, this was a really contestable heat. I mean, John actually ended up with the highest single wave in this heat, an 8.43. You know, both Rio and John were surfing great. And, you know, yeah, okay, it was a shocker result for John, but a great result for Rio. And that's a big heat win for him. But you just know that, you know, John, we've already spoken about it before I did, is that he hasn't had success here in the past. He's going to be super fired up to get a good result.
Yeah, dejectedly walking up the cobblestone. Rio Waida, he's ready to go. Warming up here for opening day at the Surf City El Salvador Pro. Rio, you know, took out John last year, but that was a learning moment for John. Let's get to John Florence as he reflects on 2023.
I was here in El Salvador was like my lowest point in my year last year, and I was just like so bummed and just like destroyed after losing an elimination round. And but I think, you know, taking a step back at the end of the year, like, okay, like last year was like more of a setup for this year. And I kind of started thinking about that in the second half of last year, going like, okay, like what can I change? What can I play with? And so when I came into this year, I felt like I had a much better base starting the year.
There you go. What do you think about John and his mindset this year?
I think that was an incredible shift, actually, or reframe, because he could have easily have, you know, continued with that whole same thought pattern of, oh, okay, down in the dumps, this isn't a good event for me. But yeah, quick turnaround, and I like it.
What are you seeing, Mitch?
I think there's a lot of confidence. He's been very consistent and obviously leading the ratings too. I feel like this could easily be the year where he finally makes it into lowers and then eventually gets his 3rd World Championship, Kipes.
Yeah, I like your take on that, Mitch. Well, along with John Florence and Griffin Colapinto, Jack Robinson is also a favorite to win the El Salvador event. Speaking of favorites, we'll look at the current women's Final 5, including defending champ Caroline Marks, after the break.
Gets his 3rd World Championship, Kipes.
Yeah, I like your take on that, Mitch. Well, along with John Florence and Griffin Colapinto, Jack Robinson is also a favorite to win the El Salvador event. Speaking of favorites, we'll look at the current women's Final 5, including defending champ Caroline Marks, after the break.
This day bring. This is one of the best days for women's surfing in history. Yeah, I'm just so stoked right now.
An impactful day, a historic day in women's surfing as we reflect back at what happened in Tahiti. Wow. And we're set up for another great event. I'm Kaipo along with Felicity Palmentier, Mitchell Salazar. Mitch, we talked a little bit about the men's Final Five coming into this event. Now let's take a look at the women's Final Five off of the current rankings. And Risa Hennessy, she's on top.
Yeah, that's pretty outstanding to see what she's been able to do the last few years. Given has a lot of momentum going her way. Tyler Wright's due for a good result, though. Kaipo should be a very competitive first opening heat.
Yeah, and that's a way to start off the entire day with a bang, so we look forward to that. We're moments away from starting competition here, and we'll be back after this break. We've got a little bit more to talk about on Dawn Patrol and anticipating Heat 1, women's opening round. Traditional dance of Panchimalco, the dance of the palms that represents the procession of palms celebrated on the first Sunday of each May. The dance symbolizes gratitude to Mother Earth so that there are good rains and excellent harvests for the entire population. The women are the Panchimalco House of Culture and the National Folkloric Ballet. That was a great opening ceremony, and it worked because we are getting going right now. Day number 1 of the event window. Kaipo Girl along with Felicity Palmentier. And we got the news flick that we're going to start with the women's opening round. Let's take a look at the women's opening round. And I want to have you pick out what's your favorite in this women's opening round? What's the heat that you are most excited about?
For me, it's heat number 4. I feel like both Molly and Gabriella probably didn't get the results they were hoping for in Tahiti, especially Molly. I mean, there was a lot of hype around her and her technique on her backhand and, obviously coming off that heat-up pipe at the beginning of the year with Betty Lou. I think she's going to want to pick herself back up here. And then you've got Sawyer, who came, possibly had the best wave of her whole life and in competition in Tahiti. So for me, it's heat number 4.
Well, I like that. I like that a lot. And that's one to watch for. We're going to have that opening round followed by the nation round as well. But you know what we haven't heard from? We haven't heard from our correspondent out in the water, Strider Wazalewski. Strider, you excited for opening day and the women's opening round?
I'm very excited. I mean, are you kidding me? The waves look super fun. The horn's about to blow. And you know what? The ladies are in the lineup ready to go. It's cleared up. It's fun. The waves are just like about 4 to 6 foot faces. A little bit of chop on the lips. So you got to be super reactive today because of that local storm. And as the tide fills back in after the low tide, I think we'll get that line to clean up. But right now,
this is the back half of the year. Post-cut, the opening round. First place moves on. First place for the women will move on into the quarterfinals. Second and third into the dreaded elimination